Imagine a scenario repeated daily in virtually every workplace. A skilled professional, years into their career, performs a task they've done countless times. Their movements are automatic and their mind is on other things. It's this scene where complacency creeps in, setting the stage for tragedy. In this episode of Livewire with our special guest, Lito Wilkins, we dive into the destructive cycle of unsafe habits that can lead to accidents, offering a blueprint for fostering a culture of continuous vigilance and improvement. Welcome to ECOS Livewire.
Hey guys, how's it going? Brother Brent, how are you, brother? Mike, thank you so much for that awesome introduction. Yeah, it's somewhat new, I started it probably a couple months ago, and so it's kinda sporadic right now, but I'm getting some structure into it to where, there's constant content coming out. Mhm. Okay, yeah, uh, Imma be honest with you guys, I did not see myself going into this trade at all. Actually, I was I pushed back on my family because I have 2 uncles and a cousin who are linemen, and, my uncle, I was in high school, he'd always say, "Hey, man, you just say the word, and I can get you in. We're ready to go here," and I saw, I wanted to fly, and I'm an aviation enthusiast, and, I wanted to get out of town. That was the big thing. I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and so I joined the military in my junior year, the Marine Corps, and actually had my grandparents who raised me. They had to sign the line for me because I wasn't. I was still a minor, so went in the military, did my thing. I was aviation ordnance, loading guns and bombs, and a door gunner in a helicopter for a few years, and did all that stuff. So I was around aviation, but it came time for me to say goodbye to the Marine Corps, come back home, and be close to family again. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, there was not really an option for somebody that knew how to load weapons on airplanes, other than joining some terrorist group, and that was not the way I was going. So, after a year of working at the airport, making $10 an hour as the assistant manager for a small FBO loading bags on a private jet for these wealthy people, um, and kind of living off my ex girlfriend or my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, priorities needed to shift, and big changes need to be made, and that's when I made a call to my uncle, and he got me an interview, and that's where it started. I got in with the utility here, got on with them, and did my apprenticeship through them, outstanding apprenticeship, um, and worked my way up, topped out, and then when I was working general construction, so we traveled all over the place here in Northern California. So there was time away from family and all that. So I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to settle down and be with my family. And work in one spot. I actually got an opportunity to work on a transmission project, and I fell in love with the big wire and the heavy stuff and the helicopters and the cranes and all that stuff. And I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And I waited my time and got my bid to transmission crew. And the guys that were on that crew were basically guys I came up with. Yeah, we were all really close, and we were a bare hand crew. Went to bare hand school, learned how to do all that, and loved it. And we got out there and on the wire one day. It's just a job that we do a lot. Pretty efficient at it, and we're a tight group, and everybody kind of you don't have to tell anybody what you're going to do. Everybody knows what Lito's doing and what say Mike is doing. Everybody knows their job. Everybody knows where everybody's at. And I got to the job site that day, and and I was a little behind the guys. I was driving one of the big trucks, and they were already set up when I got on the job site. Helicopter was on the deck, shut down, and the first thought that came to me, because I'm an aviation enthusiast, was, hey, I wonder if anybody jumped in that helicopter and flew to all of our job sites to, check for additional hazards and let the pilot know, hey, we're doing this here, we're doing this here. But because we've done it so many times and it always happened, I didn't ask any questions. I just kind of just let that go and assume that had happened. We did our detailed tailboard, flew out to the job site, and that's when we recognized an additional hazard that wasn't captured, that we could discuss in our tailboard brief, which was a vertical run of OPGW that was dead ended to the tower at the Goat Peak at the top. Usually it goes through, but this one had a splice box down below the bridge where we were working from. And so we landed on the steel. Helicopter flew away, and we all, we were like, okay, let's take 2 minutes to talk about this, because we know we got to ground this. We got to get past it. And basically, what it had was one run coming in from the north down the face of the steel, to the splice box, and then up the south side of the steel, and then back out the line. And it wasn't bonded to the steel at all, so it was insulated. And so we had worked with it before, but never in that configuration. And for me, what I point out is that right there should have been a critical stop point versus a pause point, right? A critical stop point where the crew calls a helicopter back, we go back to the LZ, and we talk about what we just found and how to mitigate it. But because we had worked with it so many times, we felt we understood it. But in the configuration that we knew it, you only needed to use one ground to work on it, because it ran straight through. So looking at it, we kind of traced it down to the splice box and back up, and it in our minds was one solid piece. So I called one ground, and we grounded it on the north side of the steel. Um, And so as I was working my way across, because I need to get past that to get out to the arm to start receiving all the material and stuff for the area that I was going to be working in, um, I stopped, and for some reason there was still doubt in my mind, right? Just in the back of your head, that doubt is sitting there. And I reached out and I tapped that OPGW on the south face and got nothing. And well, that just solidified our plan. Like, we're good. What our mitigations were great, and we can go to work, right? So I did what I had done, my entire time coming up, and what was known for the trade as acceptable, which was unbelt and start climbing across the tower, right? And this is 2015, and so something in our trade that came out in 2015 that was huge was 100% fall protection at all times, right? In fact, I was the safety lead for my crew for probably 3 years prior to that day. Going to grassroots meetings, very engaged in safety talk. I was the competent person for fall protection, so I received all our 100% fall protection and inspected it for everybody and issued it out the day before, but I did not use it. And so as I was climbing out on the outside of that steel, 125 feet in the air, I'm climbing past that OPGW. It's running basically down right in front of me, down between my legs. I got I'm basically straddling it as I'm climbing past it. My left arm is my left wrist is touching it, right? And in my mind, I'm like, wow, nothing. I don't feel anything. So yeah, we're totally fine. Let's go to work. And the second that I put my right hand up on that steel, my body locked up.
Yeah.
And I can feel it. I can hear it in my head. And my buddy 5 feet away from me, he could hear it. and he can hear me making these lurching sounds with my voice. And, all that was running through my mind was, "Why is this happening?" We're grounded. What's
Right.
going on here, you know? And, I'm blessed that I had the mindset or the thought to not just let go and drop away from what was hurting me. But because if I was wearing my fall protection, that all I would have needed to do is do that, right? I would have fallen
Right.
into my
Right.
my
But
fall
you didn't
protection
have.
and totally fine, but I didn't have it on. So that's a blessing there. Um, but this 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 electricity would came on strong, and then it faded away, and then it came right back on, and it was bleeding through me and my suit into the steel down to the ground, down to the earth, and then it would come right back because here we got a 5,000-volt circuit, 500,000-volt circuit. We got another one right next to it that are just pumping voltage, right? And that's all around this OPGW, right? And so it was collecting it like that. And so, um, my best recollection, it seemed, and people talk about, felt like it happened so fast, but it felt like a lifetime, and that's what it felt like. It felt like I was holding on forever. I probably cycled that bleeding off of that induction 5 to 6 times before I was able to pull myself off and fall into the tower and land on my back right there at the bridge foot level. And now we got this hazard between me and my rescuers, you know? So, after they convinced me that I needed to go to the hospital because I didn't wanna be the person that had the accident, I didn't wanna be the one to stop the job that day. Um, I was, you know, in pain, my muscles hurt, my arms are constricted, my legs are constricted, and just really sore, but I felt fine. I had that adrenaline rush pumping, and my thoughts were, "Hey, just let me reboot and let's go to work." I'm not dead, so let's go to work and finish this day out. We had a lot of work that day. We had 2 towers initially, and then we found out while we were out there that we had, another tower got struck by lightning that night prior, and so we had 3 towers worth of work, which is more than a full day's worth of work for, a 5-man crew. Um, and so we, get to the hospital, and for me, um that the hospital was, that moment of transformation. A lot of reflection happened there, and it didn't hit me, right away. It was one of those where, okay, I'm going to get checked out, this and that, and my supervisor's there with me, and you know, my heart checks out right away. You're fine, and they almost wanted to send me home. And my wife, who's she's an RN, she's like, really, you're gonna send him home? Like, there's nothing else you want to like do or anything? And they had to seek a specialist to find out. Hey, he's he's got to be monitored because there could be something that's damaged inside him that could be failing, or fail, and so they ended up keeping me. But my wife showed up that day at the hospital, and that's where a lot of it sank in was to how uh, I got complacent, how my complacency, how the assumption that I made that day that a hazard assessment, was done on the job site because we had always done it. Um, Could have not r I would have been fine. I would have been gone, right? But my family is left here. I have 4 kids and a wife, and they would have been left without a father to take care of them, and my wife without her partner to assist, and I don't want my children to have to go through that. I lost my father at a very young age, and I grew up without him. And I know what it feels like to not have that, and I look at my kids, now, it's just, many years later, it's just, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and help coach them through the things that, they're going through. And so, one other thing that really struck me was when my crew walked in that hospital room that day, they looked different. They looked different, and you could feel it in the air when they walked in that something was different. that they were affected, and that's what really struck me was, "Holy cow, what if that assumption I made or that moment of complacency got them in this bed rather than me, or even worse, got them in the ground to where they're not able to be with their family." What a holy cow moment for somebody to go and, who had the mindset of, "I'm the safety guy, I've taken care of my guys here, I'm very engaged in safety," and now this, you know? And so that's where I came from, that's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do, because I don't want anybody else to learn, to go through what I went through, to learn that they might have some gaps in their own personal safety that they need to, refocus on. And because many, many people before me had the same thing happen and aren't with us anymore. And it's sad to say, since my accident, we've lost people. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, and that's, when I was writing that blog, that's where that mindset came from. Was half the time you don't even know that you're being complacent. You're just going through what you normally go through, and it just creeps in so slowly, and so undetectable, just, and so yep, and so it sneaks up and it'll bite you. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, just don't be, right? Just don't be. Just fix yourself. Fix yourself, don't be it, right? Now, it starts with helping people understand that they are complacent. We all deal with it. We all deal with it. It just takes us being able to recognize, and so that's the first step is how do we recognize that we're being complacent, you know? We have to learn how to recognize that, those moments, you know? For me, since that day, any time that I have some sort of doubt, something's telling me you need to re-step, you know, take a step back and look at what you're doing right now because something's not right, you know? And it goes steps before that and placing, you know, points in your day that you have to learn to take where you stop and say, "Okay, I'm about to do this task, and it requires a lot of attention. What do I need to focus on? What what are my concerns with this?" You know, so you can I mean, if you're working by yourself or if you're working with a crew, you know, hey, you can talk about it together. Hey, we're about to, you know, go in, you know, the energized mode, right? You know, let's glove up. We're about to glove up and go in the zone. We need 100% focus from everybody, including those on the ground, right? So get the team together. You know, this is after. You know, you've already had your tailboard. You've already stopped and had your tailboard. You know, and gotten to work, and you're working. You know, you're working into your day, right? And you set up the pole next to the hole. You know, you got your operators digging the hole and all that stuff, and now you got two linemen up in a bucket getting ready to go in the zone. You know what? Let's resync as a group here. We're about to get into a different point in our day right here. You know, where there's risk, and we need to make sure that we're all on point. Stop, get together as a group, and say, hey, you know what? Eh, what's your concerns? And I want everybody to voice it. Give everybody an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, this is, you know, I have a concern with this. You know, those two phases are too close together. Those are pretty close together. How are we gonna mitigate that? How are we gonna work around that? You know, um, we just investigated an incident where clearance was canceled due to scheduling conflicts or something like that. Clearance was canceled. Crew needed work. The work was given back to them, um, and they felt as a crew that they could do it safely, right? And this is a primary riser, old porcelain pot heads. You know, you're working with stuff that you know is this far from a grounded, you know, arm, right? Energized, and all it took was a moment for something to slip, right? Jumper slip out of one gloved hand, jumper slip out of one gloved hand, hit the rubber off of one phase, right? Rubber falls off, and that jumper come back from one phase to the other, and now we have a cross phase. Fortunately, you know, there was nothing on that line that caused a flash or arc or anything like that, but there was potential, right? So it's taking time to say, hey, you know what? I, yeah, I am concerned. That is pretty darn close up there. Do we really feel safe to be able to continue this work without a clearance? Because there was a clearance beforehand, and we're gonna do it without one now? You know, it's taken the time to put things in place before we start working so we can recognize those gaps. So that, you know, if something does come up, we kinda have a plan for it anyway. Mhm. That's a good question, bud. Making me think early in the morning. Yeah, no, I know. Well, for me with the foreman, in my opinion, the foreman's ultimate role is that observer for the crew. You should be sitting there, constantly observing the crew, and not just looking for, safety issues, gauging the crew. How are they working? You know, I would say one of the things we see a lot, right, trade wide, is dropped material on somebody standing in the hole. Now, where did that disconnect happen to where, say a groundman or whoever it was allowed himself to get in the hole without communicating to the guys upstairs that they were down there, 1, and the guys up in the air not communicating that, "Hey, I'm getting ready to move this, detach it from the pole and move it, so it's gonna be free," and making sure that they're not in the hole, right? And so, I mean, the drop zone, that's one red flag right there, is the crew not communicating, not talking about their next steps. Not I was at a crew the other day, and I thought they were just very angry with each other. I'm like, "What is going on with this crew?" Like, no, they were communicating with each other. They were yelling back and forth up and down the pole, and I was like, "This is awesome. This is what you wanna see out in the field," the crew communicating every move, and they were like it was like they weren't angry yelling, they were yelling to communicate to each other, and, when guy's on the back of a truck working on something and he can hear at the same time somebody yelling something, and he had a call back to him, right? He was ready to say, "Hey, yep, yep," whatever it was that they were doing, and that's where we need to get, is to where the crew is constantly talking about every move that they do, and for me, within my transformation, I had to take myself back to my military time, to where I served on a cargo helicopter as a door gunner, and, the 2 pilots, this is a large helicopter, the pilots are in their seats, they're not able to see what's going on behind them. They're not able to see, am I clear to come left? Am I clear to come right? And so the 2 crew members in the back are their eyes. And so here you got a lieutenant colonel, the commanding officer of the squadron. You got a lance corporal, 3rd rank up in the enlisted ranks, where this lieutenant colonel up here is relying on everything that this lance corporal says to help him fly that helicopter, you know? That helicopter will never turn left without the pilot hearing my voice say, "Clear left," after he says, "Come left, coming left." And so I had to take myself back to that. And that's where I think our crews need to get to, is that communication to where every move is talked about. Either talked about in a focus point, let's pause and sync before we do this task. That entire task is talked through and understood by everybody, or we're talking through the whole task. Every move. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yep. No, and, it comes back down to, you know, we could sit guys in a classroom and teach them the procedures, this and that. Few days later, they're not gonna remember any of it. They won't remember what you taught them. You know? Um, we need to get to a point where we're teaching them hands-on. They need to learn hands-on stuff. They need to get their hands moving, get their brain moving through things, but that's where we show them why this rule matters, you know? And Brady Hansen does a great job with that, and I don't know if you guys have him on your list yet. You should be there at the top. Brady Hansen is an amazing instructor. Actually, I got one of his works of art right there on the door behind me from one of his classes. Um, he brings a dirt box out, and he teaches grounding. And I sit back and I watch him teach, and I watch light bulbs around the room while they're because the guy is just eat it up. You can't break up a huddle with Brady in there. And he shows them why. Why do we ground this way? Why do we have to EPZ? And this is why. They're like, oh, I didn't realize that could do that. And so helping them understand the why and how to mitigate it is how we're going to stop this rash of this plateau, this fatality plateau that we've had over the years to stop it, then get it to come down. Mhm. Exactly right. We we got to get to a place where, for me, it's easy for me. I've been through something, right? It's easy for me to get in front of guys and say, this is why we do it this way. And it's gotten easier. Like, I'll tell you, the first time I had to share, anything, I think the first time I stood in front of a group, it was a group of my peers, actually, right after my accident, and I became the grassroots chair. Yep. I had to present one slide that my boss put together. He's like, "I want you to put this slide together, or present on this slide." I sat up all night. I did not sleep studying that slide. I was nervous, rocks in my stomach, because I was more worried about what they were going to think about me as I was presenting this, right? I'm not a great presenter. I am, through practice over the years, we've gotten better, but um it it we got to get the supervisors confident in their knowledge of what they're doing, because they know what they're doing. They wouldn't be a supervisor if they didn't know their job, right? We got to get them, they got to get confident in what they're doing, you know to help them understand that it's part of their responsibility as a supervisor to ensure that their guys know the work and know how to do it, right? We just the apprenticeship is really good about this here, here in the CalNev apprenticeship. We had a string of work procedure errors on the distribution side, and it was the same thing over and over again, and it was the simple stuff. So, you know, uh, energize neutral, here, wrong transformer hung, wrong size transformer hung, little things, but those little things add up. And so we were like, okay, well, let's see if the apprenticeship can help us out. We brought all our distribution crews into the apprenticeship. One of their instructors, who teaches all the apprentices, taught them basics of transformer hookups, transformer connections, and they actually had paperwork and everything that they had to go through, and tests and stuff, while this instructor's teaching them. And then they went to a transformer room and got to actually connect, to do the connections and see how they worked, and test transformers to make sure that the internal, wiring matched the nameplate, stuff like that. And as I sat there and watched them, here I am again observing instruction over again, right? Watching them learn this, I can see something was happening. And so here we go from that, that groundman here, apprentice here, foreman here thing, to where they came to that even playing ground, where the apprentices were helping the linemen and the foreman at the table understand a concept for transfer hookups. Because who's the most learned right now? Who's in the thick of learning how to do this work? Our apprentices. Our apprentices are learning this. They go to their classes, they come back, they're learning from their journeyman on this crew, then they get put to another crew and they're learning from this journey. They're learning a lot of things. And their heads are in the books. And so we need to get that playing field back down here to where the communication's even and it's not like this. Because otherwise like we're just gonna see it continue. Mhm, 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 yeah. So, you know, there's a fine line between, it working and it not working, right? And all it takes is one person coming in with the wrong attitude to do this observation, right? And you'll have outriggers come up, buckets come down, outriggers come up, and the guys cab up and wait for the guy to leave. I've seen it, you know? And it's a thing that we need to do. Those people that are doing those observations need to learn how to do them. Because if you come in with the attitude of policing, you're gonna get either run off or you're not gonna get anything out of it because they're not gonna do any work. You're not gonna see anything good, right? So the safety managers, the safety directors, whoever it is, they're not the only ones doing these observations. Those supervisors need to be out there observing their guys and watching critical work. Not, oh, yep, they got chocks down, they're coned off, whatever. Not those little things. Those are low hanging fruit. Those are the things I see it. They know my truck. My truck looks different than everybody else's. They know when I'm pulling up and I see the apprentice running back to the truck to start throwing shocks under it. Right. They know when the safety guy's showing up. Right. And for me, I don't go out there to try to find something. I go out there to learn how the guys are doing things. Because how am I supposed to put together a training program if I don't know what the guys need help with, you know? And for me, I'm not in the work anymore. I'm not out there every day. These guys are, and they do good work, right? I'm out there to help them while they're going through a task. Maybe that's the opportunity for me to help that foreman recognize when his crew is out of sync, versus getting out there and then starting going through the bins and, "Oh, look at these, this rigging's all out of, this it's ripped," or whatever, and, they didn't have any chocks down and, "Why is this guy's harness all faded?" And, that's all that stuff is handled somewhere else. That's not a crew visit. A crew visit is getting out there, building a relationship with that crew, you know, and getting an understanding of how that crew works, because I can sit here now and know which crews I really don't have to see today. And I can know which crews need the help, and it's not just going out in the job. It's, if you're on a digital platform where you can see all the JHAs, that's even better because I can look at a JHA and tell you this crew needs a crew visit, you know? And it's not to reprimand them for not having a good JHA, or, not being as detailed or whatever it is, or, missing a hazard or whatever. It's okay, this is my moment to get out here and talk to these guys, build a relationship with them, build some trust so that they can understand where I'm coming from when I say, "Hey, you know what? We need to make a change at this. You guys, this might be a little bit better if you did this." You know? Yeah, what do we get out of punitive approach to anything? Just bad attitude, right? Yeah, you're not gonna get anything out of, just coming out and hammering guys, you know? Especially if you're always the one that comes out and does it, right? If you're the one that always comes out and does it, like I said, crew's gonna cab up. They're not gonna do anything in front of you. You're not gonna see anything, right? Um, for me, I guess you call it wisdom. I don't think that's the right word for me, but, goes back to my military career, right? And, for me, when I went from being, I was a corporal for a while. I was the low man in my shop when I was at the helicopter squadron, and then I reenlisted. And, when I reenlisted, I went to a different airframe. I went to an F-18, so fighter jet, because I wanted to see the world. And when I got there, I picked up sergeant. So I went from being the low man in a shop to running a night crew with 8 Marines that work for me, you know? And, they had an incentive program. It was, an award that you were given, but your nominations came from your crew members. So the crew members got to nominate somebody for an award for being an outstanding Marine, basically, or an outstanding leader. It was a leadership award. And the prize was a backseat ride in F-18. So, mm, do you think that straightened me up, made me wanna be a great leader, right? I ended up getting it, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I got it because the corporal that worked for me, who was nominated for it, he got a DUI, unfortunately, which got him out of that, right? So it went to the next person that was voted for, which was me. Um, and didn't get the backseat ride. Unfortunately, I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps before the backseat ride happened. But um, I bring that up because I think it that is a good place to start. These guys like to get recognition. And you could see it you could see it in their posts on their social media, like, "Hey, check out what we're doing today," and, you get the thumbs up and all that stuff, right? For us, we did a, recognition program for the cruise, and I think the prize was a Yeti cooler, and they ate it up. They ate it up, you know? And we saw what we saw with the cruise, like, it became after it was on a monthly basis. Safest crew, turning in near misses, not having incidents, stuff like that. We kinda gauged a bunch of different things, right? By the 3rd or 4th month, I was having a hard time deciding which crew to give it to because they were, everybody was they were doing their stuff, and so it shows me right there, the benefits of having some sort of recognition program, and recognizing guys versus coming out and being a hammer all the time and noticing all the bad things. Nobody wants to be pointed out that they've done something wrong. I mean, I still don't like being told that I've done something wrong, you know? But if you're giving somebody something, and you hand them an award, I'll walk out to a crew and say, "Hey, you know what? Thanks for turning in that near miss. It's helping out our trade. Here are some hand warmers, electronic hand warmers. Here are some hand warmers for your crew." You know, they're like, "Dude, thanks." Linemen like free stuff. They do. And when you've got their attention when you hand something out. Mhm, mhm. Yep, for sure. And going back to what you were saying there, when we had, at the utility recognition program, it was like $30 gift card or something like that they gave you for not having incidents. That was it. That was the only thing that if you had a clean record, no incidents, then your crew got, everybody got gift cards. Everybody was getting gift cards because we had a great safety record because nobody was turning stuff in. They realized that really quick, right? And so you can't have that. You can't have that. You have to level it out with, okay, where are we? Okay, so they're down on their incidents or they don't have any incidents, but they've turned in. Look at these near misses. They've turned in these near misses and good catches. And recognizing that. Hey, thank you for turning those in. Hey, and great job for your because on our near miss form, we have them outlined, "Hey, where did you what went wrong? What caused this to happen? What could you have done better to mitigate this from, happening?" Right? We have them go through that. So the crew learns on their own when they turn in on the near miss, right? So bringing those 2 together to be able to work together, hey, incidents are down, but they're turning in near misses or good catches, even catching them before it's a near miss, right? Turning in those things to even it out. Mhm. Well, it's got to start with making everyone on that crew, everyone on that line team, and I say line team, I mean your organization, top to bottom, your organization, everybody feel comfortable speaking up. Raising concerns. If I raise a concern and I'm told to pack sand, I don't want to hear it. You think that person's going to speak up again? Probably not. Nope. Yep. And that'll follow them to the next place they work, and the next place they work, and it just grows. It grows from there. And so creating that safe place starts, I mean, it starts in 2 places. It starts upstairs at the management level, right? But it also starts with that group you're with, that foreman, the foreman and his crew, you know? And the foreman, I mean, has the power to make that crew be as open as open as he wants, you know? And for me, and I try to tell everybody when I go out, like, when you're done with that job brief, I mean, because that job brief isn't you doing a safety pitch. It isn't you talking about the job and the work that needs to be done. Yes, that has to be covered. Everybody needs to know what's going on, but you need to create a time, not just ask the question, "Anybody got any questions? Anybody?" Because you're still gonna have that guy that doesn't feel comfortable. But if you give up, everybody a place and a time during during that morning brief or right after that morning brief to voice concerns, they're gonna open up. I remember a time I was on a large transmission crew, and I was his first step apprentice, so I was, young and new in the trade, right? And I didn't understand a few things, but I had a close relationship with a couple of linemen. They were good friends. And so I waited until after the tailboard and I went over to the truck, where we were getting our gear ready, and I asked them the questions, versus bringing it up in the full circle with everybody. Who's to say that the other apprentices on the crew or even the foreman didn't catch what I was going to ask, you know, or that what I wanted to bring up uh wasn't going to be wasn't caught already, wasn't something that, they identified as a hazard or that they even thought about. So, getting to that point, being able to have everybody be comfortable and confident in speaking up is the first step, and then we just creating that environment is like you said, is a hard thing to do because all it takes is one shutdown to shut a crew up, or to shut one person up, and all it takes is one person, like you said, somebody seeing that happen. Oh, well, hey, I know that it's not safe to talk to this guy, you know? And so that's why I'm saying it comes from both levels, the management having that openness and being able to let these guys voice their opinions and stuff. And it's a very it's very there's a very fine line there. Like, it could be broken. So once you've been able to create the culture where everybody feels safe to speak up, maintaining that takes work. And it's not one of those back of the mind things where you're not thinking about it. It's a constant. You have to nurture that relationship with all the crews, that line team, because if you get somebody that comes in, so say, you need to monitor it too, monitor and manage it, because when you get, I mean, we're a revolving workforce. These guys are moving, or they're going where the money is, and and where the good work is. I see a lot of guys chasing work, not money, the work. They want to do this specific thing in this specific location. They're going to go and do it, right? Well, sometimes you can have a guy that, you know, or even a crew, because some of them move around as crews, where that not unsafe culture, well, that culture where they're not open to speaking up and sharing ideas, sharing concerns and stuff like that will move into an organization and could cause that. So as those move in, you need to be right there with them to gauge that and to help them understand, and it takes time and it takes extra, work as a crew or as an employee comes on board to sit down and say, hey, you know what, this is who we are. We're open here. You can talk to me. I'm a safe person. You can go up and you can talk. That's why I love where I work right now. The everybody from the bottom up is a traditional. They've all been linemen. So the president of our company is a lineman. They've all been where we are, and so they all understand that concept. You know, it, if you shut them down, if you don't create a place that's safe for opening up and being able to talk about things, it's not going to go good. Hmm. Yeah. Safety and accountability is not just about following rules. It's about creating a safe place for people to voice their concerns. Life is busy, man. I appreciate it, Mike. Yeah. So first, I want to thank you guys for creating the Ecos Livewire podcast, and having this because, with Ecos and all those people that are speaking on the webinar, there's still thousands and thousands of people that need to be touched by these messages that are shared on Ecos. And so this is a perfect thing because we're in the trucks, we're on the road, 90% of the time, right? and these guys need something to listen to, and this is the perfect thing for it. For me, I'm fixing to drop my first episode of the Leading Safe Lineworkers podcast. And so I just wanted to share a bit about that. It's going to be good. Like you guys, like what you guys have here. We've got plenty of safety topics to talk about. I want to dig into some misconceptions. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about electrical work. And over the past few years of me being out in the safety world and going to events and safety functions, I've built a pretty strong network of very, very specialized people within the safety realm. Grounding, uh, live line work, just a subject matter experts from everything that we do, that I'm going to be bringing onto the podcast to be able to talk to and dig into these things. Mike and Brent, you guys are my co-hosts, so I'm going to have you on the show every once in a while to talk about certain things, because there's going to be a lot that we need to dig into and demystify, um, and help our line team